My own sister smiled and told investors, "Sentiment doesn't pay the bills." A week later, I was staring at bankruptcy papers for the gallery I spent my life building. She thought she had painted over every dark secret, hiding her crimes in plain sight. But she forgot about the one thing our father left me, and it was about to burn her whole world to the ground. Let me know what city you're listening from in the comments, and please subscribe if you enjoy stories like this. The air in the boardroom was thick with the smell of new money and old ambition. My sister Chloe placed a manicured hand on my shoulder, a perfect picture of support. "Eleanor is the heart of this gallery," she announced to the investors. Her smile was bright, polished, a weapon. She drew the battle lines right there. I stood. I listened. I said nothing. Just last week, she'd laughed while cleaning the office, wanting to toss out Dad's dusty box of old junk. It was a smile I knew I would never forget. Some debts are paid in full. That night, the silence in my office was deafening. Her words echoed off the empty walls. I found myself in the storage room, kneeling before the cardboard box she had labeled junk. My fingers brushed past old photographs, faded letters. And then I felt it. Cold, heavy, familiar. My father's old UV flashlight. I held it. I weighed it. I remembered. He used this tool to find the truth hidden beneath the surface of things. Chloe just saw a piece of metal, another relic to be discarded, another memory taking up space. For her, the past was a burden, something to be cleared away to make room for the future she was building, a future I had paid for. I remember the smell of gasoline and worn leather in my father's old Mustang, the last piece of him I had left. I remember signing it away without a second thought, just to see the acceptance letter to her MBA program framed on the wall. She just smiled, a perfect, bright, expensive smile. Love is a debt you never call in. I remember standing in the cold rain outside the church, the day we buried our mother right next to our father. Chloe's hand was so small in mine, her body trembling as she leaned against me, looking lost, utterly broken. She looked up at me, her eyes pooling with tears that I wanted to wipe away forever. She promised. "It's just us now, Ellie," she whispered. "Just the two of us against the world." I clicked the flashlight on. The weak purple beam cut through the darkness of the storeroom. It was the only light that felt honest anymore. What does a promise like that taste like after it's been broken? It tastes like ash, like cold, hard, metal, like the tool now resting in my hand. The past is a heavy thing. You can try to put it in a box, but you can never truly put it down. I was still holding the cold metal of my father's flashlight when my phone buzzed across the desk, its blue light violent in the darkness. An unsaved number. I answered. I recognized the voice instantly. Mr. Harrison, our oldest client, our most loyal friend. His voice on the line wasn't angry. It was worse. It was the cold, clinical tone of a surgeon cutting away a diseased limb. That limb was my name. He spoke of inconsistencies, of an expert's report, of a painting he had bought from my gallery 2 months ago, a painting my dear Chloe had personally recommended to him. Then he used the word, fraud. I hung up. I sat still. I just breathed. For 25 years, my name was my bond. It was the one currency that mattered in a world of fakes and forgeries. And in a single phone call, it had been declared worthless. Chloe's words echoed in my ears again. Sentiment doesn't pay the bills. Apparently, neither does a lifetime of integrity. Rock bottom has a basement. When I confronted Chloe the next morning, she didn't even flinch. She leaned against the doorframe of my office, sipping her latte, a perfect picture of calm concern. "Harrison? Oh, that's just terrible," she said, her voice dripping with practiced sympathy. "The art world is full of whispers. You know that." She smiled. She shrugged. She lied. She claimed she handled the provenance papers herself, a detail I knew for a fact was handled by our archivist. A small slip, a tiny crack in a perfect facade. She thought she was throwing me an anchor to survive, but she had just handed me a thread to pull. That night, I stood alone in the main gallery, the silence accusing me. My eyes fell on the painting Mr. Harrison had mentioned, hanging there under the soft gallery lights, looking perfect, deceptively perfect. Across the room, on my desk, sat my father's old flashlight, one fake painting. So, what about the others? The question hung in the cavernous silence of the gallery. My fingers tightened around the cold, worn metal of the flashlight. I raised it. I aimed it. I clicked it on. The beam cut a sharp purple-blue gash through the darkness, landing on the canvas that my oldest friend now considered a mark of my shame. At first there was nothing, just the familiar strokes, the layers of oil paint my father had taught me to read like a book. But then I saw it. A flicker of wrongness near the artist's signature, a texture that was too clean, too perfect, a lie staring back at me. My breath caught in my throat. I moved through the darkened gallery, a ghost in my own museum, the single beam of light my only guide. I checked one painting, then another, then another. Some were clean, their integrity singing under the light. Others screamed with the silent poison of forgery. It was a violation, a quiet, creeping invasion. And then I came to the last one. A painting from my dearest friend, Michael, finished just before he passed. The one Chloe had dismissed as worthless, sentimental junk. I swept the light across the canvas, my hand trembling now. The forged signature was a clean, surgical wound, a simple crime of greed I could almost understand. But this was different. Underneath the forgery, hidden beneath a thin layer of paint, other words began to glow. It was a message from the dead. For Ellie. Don't let them take it. His handwriting. His words, his final gift to me. The floor felt like it had dropped away beneath my feet. This wasn't just theft. Chloe hadn't just replaced the art. She had tried to paint over my history, to erase a friendship that was more precious than any canvas. Grief gets loud. Revenge gets quiet. She wasn't just a thief who stole paintings from a wall. She was an eraser of memories. And for that, there is no forgiveness. Forgiveness was a currency I no longer had. Justice, however, was an investment I was willing to make. The next morning, I walked into Chloe's office, my face a mask of weary defeat. I proposed a final, desperate idea, a grand retrospective exhibition to honor Michael's work, our last chance to save the gallery's reputation. Her eyes lit up. Not with hope for our gallery, but with the unmistakable glint of greed, a predator seeing a final, easy meal. "That's a brilliant idea, Ellie," she said, her voice filled with a warmth that made my skin crawl. A perfect tribute. Greed is a cage you build yourself. And so the game began. While she spent her days on the phone, eagerly arranging for the masterpieces to be displayed, I spent my nights making different calls. While she was curating a collection of lies, I was curating a panel of experts. I made one call to a quiet, unassuming man in his late 70s, the most respected art authenticator in the country. A man my father had called a friend, a man who understood the difference between a painting and a soul. He agreed to come. He didn't even ask why. Then, 3 days before the exhibition, I received a news alert on my phone. A high-profile black market art dealer had been arrested in a surprise FBI raid downtown. I clicked on the article. I saw the mugshot. It was her buyer, her escape route. Her entire future vanished in the flash of a camera. I closed the phone. I took a sip of my coffee. I felt nothing. Every nail in her coffin she hammered in herself. The invitations were sent. The critics confirmed their attendance. The fakes were hung on my walls, each one a monument to her betrayal. She walked through the gallery that final afternoon, beaming with pride, completely unaware of the stage I had set for her. The lights were ready. The witnesses were in place. The trap was set. The bait was walking right in. The gallery was buzzing. The clinking of champagne glasses and the low murmur of pretentious praise filled the air. a perfect symphony for Chloe's grand performance. She stood beside me under the warm stage lights, soaking in the applause for a legacy she had systematically hollowed out from the inside, her masterpiece of deceit. She leaned in and whispered, her breath smelling of victory, "See, Ellie? This is how you pay the bills." I just looked at her. My turn. I walked to the podium. I tapped the microphone. A soft feedback squeal cut through the room, silencing everyone. I looked out at the sea of faces, critics, collectors, investors, all the people she had lied to. Then my eyes found hers. The smile was still there, confident, unbreakable. I started my speech, thanking them all for coming to honor a brilliant artist, to celebrate the truth of his work. My father taught me that every piece of art has a story, I said, my voice even and clear. But he also taught me how to spot a lie. That's when her smile began to falter. I paused, letting the silence stretch. You see, I continued, never breaking eye contact with my sister. Real art has a soul. Fakes do not. A confused murmur rippled through the crowd. I gave a slight nod to the side of the stage. On cue, Mr. Sterling, the authenticator, walked into the light. In his hand was my father's old UV flashlight. Chloe's face went white. The color drained away, leaving a mask of pure, primal panic. The main gallery lights dimmed. Mr. Sterling didn't say a word. He walked up. He raised the light. He revealed the truth. On the large screen behind us, the camera zoomed in as the purple-blue beam swept across canvas after canvas. Forged signatures dissolved, and beneath them, hidden messages glowed like ghosts. For Ellie, don't let them take it. A collective gasp sucked the air out of the room. Every eye was on Chloe, and in the end, it was our father who caught her. Her composure shattered. Her lies were exposed. Her world was gone. I looked at her one last time, lowered the mic, and walked off the stage. I didn't stay to watch her fall. The truth, it turned out, was quiet. It didn't need an audience. The aftermath was a storm of headlines, lawsuits, and whispers that I simply chose to walk away from. I sold the gallery, every last piece of glass and steel, every ghost of a memory. I watched them dismantle the empire I had built, and I felt nothing but relief. 6 months later, my world is different. It starts with the first ray of sunlight cutting through the large, grimy window of a repurposed warehouse. It doesn't smell like money or ambition anymore. It smells like turpentine, fresh coffee, and possibility. There are no million-dollar canvases on the walls, just blank ones, waiting. My students are young, hungry, fearless. They don't talk about auction prices or market trends. They talk about color, about light, about the ache in their soul they need to put on a canvas. I don't curate their finished work. I help them find the courage to start. I mix the paint. I guide their hands. I watch them create. Sometimes a young woman with fire in her eyes will ask me about the old gallery, about the scandal. She'll ask if I miss the power, the prestige, the fight. I look around at the beautiful, chaotic mess of my new life, at the sunlight dancing in the dust motes, and I just smile. What would you build if you weren't afraid to lose it all? This morning, I was helping a young painter with her first brushstroke. Her hand was hesitant, afraid to make a mark, to ruin the perfect white of the canvas. I gently placed my hand over hers, guiding it forward. A single bold streak of blue. Her eyes widened with a joy I recognized. It was the feeling of creating something true. I set the brush down. I smiled. Everything was just beginning. I lost an empire. I found my kingdom. Thank you so much for listening. Feel free to share your own family story below, and please subscribe to join our community.